With everybody quiet, we might as well get started. Thank you for being here. We appreciate all of your attendance here today. We, as always, are encouraged when a number of people come to participate with us and help us out in our deliberations, and we welcome you here. We see many who have attended before, and we welcome you. We appreciate your constant support of what we're doing. What we want to do to get started is some introductions, and we'll start with the commission members and then the UDOT staff. Then we'll ask for any elected officials to introduce themselves too, please. Then we'll have a series of reports and get on with the public comments and the agenda items that we have for the commission. So let's start with the introductions of the commission. I'll start down here with Lou on my right. Welcome back, Lou. It's good to have you back with us.
I'm back from Indianapolis yesterday. Our roads are a lot better than Indiana, but I was at the Speedway, and at 230 miles an hour, they go pretty dang well on those roads. Lou Kramer, Commissioner at Large, delighted to be here, Salt Lake City.
I'm Danny McConaughey, Commissioner at Large.
Megan Holbrook, Region 2.
Kent Millington, Region 3.
Wayne Barlow, Region 1.
Nagi Zanadi, Region 4.
Donna Locke, Commissioner at Large.
Now, Carlos, let's have the introduction of the UDOT people and a special reason why you're not seated at the table here with us.
Do we want to start with Heather and Eileen over here?
Oh, please.
I'm Heather Barthold, I'm the Commission Assistant.
I'm Eileen McCown, I'm State Marshal's Assistant.
Zach, Grant,
Grant Potter, UDOT Communications.
Zach Whitney, UDOT Communications.
Okay, I'm Shane Marshall, I'm the Deputy Director.
I'm Terry Newell, the Deputy Director.
Carlos Braceras, Deputy Director.
Lisa Wilson, Region 2.
Jason Davis, Operations.
Rick Torgerson, Region 4. Chris Peterson, Region 1.
Joe Walker, UDOT Communications.
Me? Linda Hull, Legislative Director.
Bill Arntz, UDOT Programming.
Monty Aldridge, Transportation Performance, UDOT.
We have some more UDOT folks on this side. Carmen?
Lee, Program Development.
Brian Adams, Region 2.
Troy Peterson, Region 2.
Carmen Swanwick, Project Development Structures.
John Gleason, UDOT Communications.
Rob Clayton, Traffic Management.
Travis Jones, Structures.
Becky Nix, Structures.
I think that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's have our FHWA friends introduce themselves, please.
Good morning, I'm Ivan Barrera, Division Administrator for the Federal Highway Administration in Utah.
Brigitte Mandel, Assistant Division.
Now, public officials, elected officials, please, Senator Harper.
Senator Wayne Harper, friend of transportation.
Very, very good friend of transportation.
Here, here.
He left off the important adjective, very good friend. Other elected officials, I think we've got some people from Morgan County here.
Tina Cannon, Morgan County.
John Barber, Morgan County.
Are there others? We welcome all of you here. Thank you for making the effort to join us today. What we want to do to start with is in our presentations today, and one of the things I want to do initially is to recognize our new Deputy Director here. Carrie Newell has just received that appointment as the new Deputy Director as a result of SB 136 that was passed by the legislature, indicating that UDOT should have 2 Deputy Directors, and Terry has been selected to be the additional Deputy Director and joins us for the first time in this, officially in her capacity. So we welcome her here. Now we've got some presentations that we want to make to start with on our agenda. We'll start with the Bear Lake Recreational Hotspot. We'll have Chris make that presentation. And then we'll open it up if there's anyone that wants to address that particular issue. We'll open it up for public comment. We are waiting for a couple of elected officials from Moab to join us, and they got stuck in a traffic jam coming up over the point of the mountain this morning. And so some of us have also experienced that. But we'll wait for the Moab presentation until they get here. Having made that effort, we want to be sure that they're here for that presentation. So Chris, let's begin with the presentation about the Bear Lake recreational hotspots.
Commissioners, thank you for the chance to address you this morning and present the results of the study that we've completed up in the Bear Lake area. First of all, this will be month number 2 presenting to you, and I'm concerned that next month we're in Kaysville. I'm going to be presenting to you again, so don't get used to this. This is not my preference. In fact, I'll do everything I can next month to make sure that doesn't have to happen. So, as part of the recreation hotspot process, the Commission identified several areas across the state, and in the Bear Lake area is one of those areas you asked us to look at and see if there were opportunities for congestion mitigation in the Bear Lake area. And so several years ago we completed a corridor study that looked at several different options for improvements that could be done along that corridor to try to come up with a corridor plan that would help us understand jointly with the community what they would like to see the corridor that runs north and south primarily through Garden City and through that area along the eastern shore of Bear Lake. So when the Commission asked us to look further into depth regarding the recreation hotspots, we hired a consultant to help us do that, and they've done an amazing job working with the community to try to work through the myriad of options that they looked at in the original corridor study to see which projects there would have the greatest impact on reducing congestion in that area during those summer months. And so I'll just go through kind of the process that they did, and we're going to kind of go maybe backwards in an order that normally we would build from a lot of projects to a final recommendation. We're just going to start and tell you the list of the projects that we're going to forward, and then we'll tell you the process we went through to get to that prioritized list. So involving several stakeholders there, and I need to hit refresh because they updated the presentation this morning, and it might be different now than it was 4 minutes ago. We worked with many stakeholders, elected officials, residents, business owners, and different folks that not only that have businesses there in that area that live there full-time, but as well as those who have interest in that property who spend a lot of time there in the summer. And if you're aware and familiar with that area, you'll know that there's often a lot of folks that, if you want to call it a transit population, there's a lot of folks that come and spend their summers there or spend their weekends there. And so they have interest there, not necessarily full-time residents. And so we incorporated many folks that have the summer interest as well as full-time residents of the valley and of the Bear Lake area. So they identified 4 projects that would be, they shortened and narrowed down their list to 4 projects, and let's see if I can scroll down so you can see them. In order of priority, their first priority would be to improve the access to the marina and reduce the congestion that they see every day during the summer there as boats try to get in there. If you'll remember, we took the Commission through that entrance on a fairly busy day. It was, if I recall, a Thursday in the middle of the summer, and so we had a little bit of a challenge turning the bus around, but we made it without incident. Their second project is the main intersection in Garden City where SR 30 and and US 89 connect right there in the middle of town, and they identified that as their second priority project, which would be to make some improvements at that intersection to allow it to function and flow more smoothly. Third project would be to add a center turn lane on the north end of town between basically in front of the KOA and up to 300 West. Would be their third priority project. The fourth priority project would be center turn lanes at Buttercup. And if you remember, we went down through that Buttercup as we went past the fishing pond last year. We drove through there and we came out on the southern end of town, and that is going to become an improved bypass road based on funding that they have a project right now to widen that and improve that road. So as traffic continues to grow, that's going to be a great bypass for them. So those are their four prioritized projects. Let me show you on this map where they are, and I'll zoom in a little bit and talk just a little bit about each one of those, and I'll do those in the order of their priorities. So if you'll look at this this graphic right here, the concept of this project would be to relocate the current access, which is up here on the southern end of the existing marina, further south so that it better aligns with, let me see, I'll scoot to that, Raspberry Patch Lane so you can see that a little better. The hatched area on this is the future expansion plan of the marina. This relocation and this frontage road, if you call it that, access road, aligns and works well with their future expansion plans and is actually part of their future expansion plans. By moving this roadway down here, we move it farther away from a curve, kind of a blind curve that's up on the north end. It provides significant storage for the number of boats and recreational vehicles that are entering the marina each day so that they have a chance to get into the marina and fill in rather than sitting out on the state highway waiting for a chance to go through the entrance gate. It also allows us to relocate and make some improvements with sight distance down here and get rid of one intersection by moving it down here and combining it with Raspberry Patch Lane. So that's the first priority project. That's an estimated cost of just under $5 million to do that project.
We have a question about
Yes.
that road.
Is that land privately owned? Remind me, Chris.
That land, I don't know who owns it. I know that we will have to go through a significant process. It's considered wetland. It's part of the lake. So we'll have to work with Department of Natural Resource State Parks, Forestry Fire State Lands to work through that process.
Okay.
I believe there is some private land on this southern end. I just don't know how far north
Yeah, I
it
was just
goes.
trying to remember from the tour. That
Other questions?
Just one comment, that improvement at Buttercup Lane will give a bypass for the center of Garden City going south. So if people have a destination on the south end of the lake, they can avoid that intersection at the middle of town. Just like the northbound cutoff has done, which Garden City themselves put in.
That's correct.
So
I'll highlight that.
The wetlands are to the far right?
The wetlands are right along this edge.
Oh, okay.
And the high water mark for the lake is generally in this area, so there is a small area of wetlands. At the same time, this roadway might, and we haven't got into final design yet, might have impacts on that high water mark. We'd have to work through the Corps of Engineers, and so this would take some effort. This isn't something we could go build tomorrow, but it is something that we, in alignment with state parks and the different agencies that are up there, this is something they would like to pursue in order to mitigate that and help improve the marina as well.
Okay, thank you.
So let me go down to their second one really quick. Currently, this is a three-way stopped intersection, and with the number of pedestrians that they have there each summer, it's difficult to move cars through this intersection because of the number of pedestrians moving back and forth. Couple that with the stop sign, they've identified a project here that would improve this intersection with traffic signals. Now we've gone back and forth, and there's lots of different options of how this might be improved. Rather than get into detail of which option they've selected right now, we want to leave this at a higher level and say intersection improvements here, and then if this were to fund, then we would work with the community to further define what those improvements are, whether it's a temporary signal. There's property that would need to be purchased on the east side of the intersection over here. So there would still be some work. There's even the potential need for access management, access control on the north side. And so this is their number 2 priority project.
Guess how much?
Yes. That one is, let's click on the dot, I think it's 600, or is it 9? Just under 700,000. I was in the middle. I was just going, yeah. Okay, the next one is a center turn lane between the KOA essentially and 300 North. So here's 300 North, the north bypass to the city. It comes around. Currently, right now, there's a lot of congestion in here. This is there's a small, there's a large KOA. There's different. I think they have a little grocery store in there and a little Ace Hardware. Right now, there is nowhere for anybody to get out of the through lanes if they're trying to turn left or right to come into this area. This is about $1 million project. This would allow traffic to proceed past rather than back up and congest behind those cars as they're waiting to make turns. These are larger RVs that are getting into this location, and so that they block the road fully when they're waiting their turn to come in such a busy time of the year. This project is the $1 million project, so this was the 900 that I was thinking. All right. And then the fourth project is the one that Commissioner Barlow was mentioning, is the improvements at Buttercup. This project would involve turn lanes and some widening to accommodate the ability for improved left-hand and right-hand turn movements with the anticipated volumes that they know will come when they improve 300 West and via cars come into this intersection via Buttercup. And I'll zoom back out here to show you. So if you recall, when we came on the tour, we came down this dirt road on the bus. We had to promise not to let the bus owner know that he went on a dirt road, if you recall. We talked about the fishing pond.
Of course, we haven't done that in a public meeting.
Yeah, until now. Let's hope they're not watching on YouTube, one of those thousands of viewers that are watching. And so anyway, the bypass will come down here. This will be paved here shortly. This is a project that's I can't remember if it's actually advertised or not, but this is moving along, and this will be happening this summer, I believe, and then that will allow anybody that wants to go to the south, as Commissioner Barlow stated, be able to bypass the congested areas there. This project is estimated to be $1.6 million. There's a lot of work that would have to occur on this section of the roadway because of some fairly steep grades and field slopes would have to go in. It may require a lot more work and some right-of-way that will have to be purchased, and that's the reason for that cost. Those are the prioritized. We have a lot more information here. What I want to show you is that as we narrow this down to these four, and these, this is the slide that we were working on. We actually got the update. When I hit refresh, they had it done. See that? So they got them in the right order. These were in the wrong order last night. And so they're amazing what you can do with technology today. So if you have any questions about these will be posted on the Recreation Hotspots page. For instance, if you wanted to have a little bit more information or a little closer detail, we have a one-pager for each of those projects here with a cost estimate and some details that you'll be able to have access to get to. And I want to show you this slide. So the original corridor study identified several projects throughout the length of the corridor, ranging from improvements to trails to speed studies and speed reductions. In a very collaborative way, we worked to find out which of these projects would be the most beneficial in reducing congestion. So some of these are great projects, and the community wanted these projects badly, but because they did not mitigate congestion, they didn't make it to the top of the process. So we used the prioritization process to go through that, to work through those, and these are is a screenshot of the decision lens results through that process. And if you look over here, you can see that the prioritized listing of those, and you'll notice that number 3 is a trail extension to the south, but because that doesn't mitigate congestion, you'll see that it didn't make the top 4 that we're forwarding to you as part of the recommendation of the study.
Is that a different kind of extension?
This is just further extending the trail from where it ends right now. I'm having a mental block on the name of the condos where you stayed. Anyway, so right now this extends it all the way down to the beach improvements that we've made and the parking improvements down on the west side. It's going to make it part of the way there. We have a TAP project that's significantly large to extend it part of the way. And this project would have been to extend it all the way down to Rendezvous. And then as well, if you were to scroll further down on the page, there's additional information that we posted for you to use if you have any questions about that. Are there other questions that you might have for me about the results of the study? I'm grateful for our project team who worked in a very collaborative way with the community to find projects that the community supports and recommended. And this is the results of their work.
Additional comments or questions, please?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say the fact, Chris, that we actually went and saw that makes it much more real in our eyes. Trying to make that turn at the marina and seeing all the boats. This has been very helpful on both scores. I do want to mention when you say hotspot of Bear Lake, you told us it was the second coldest spot in the country out there, I think, one time. So thank goodness for mitigating.
We can title this. We can change the title if that helps.
Cold spot.
We'll call it the cold
It is
spot.
beautiful, and obviously Wayne and others are more expert, but the continued congestion out there continues to grow. It's very, very popular, more than ever. So thanks for the good work.
Other questions? Chris, thank you very much. Just as a reminder to everybody that among the funding that UDOT has received this last year, there was $100 million that was set aside for recreational hotspots. And we've talked, last month we met in southern Utah and we talked significantly about the Zion's hotspot. And today we're talking about Bear Lake and Moab. But there's $100 million there that is to be spent on these recreational hotspots because recreation and tourism is such an important part of the Utah economy. And that's the reason why we're spending this money and the effort that's required to look at these projects. Is there anyone here that is specifically here to address this Bear Lake hotspot issue? If so, we would like you to come address the commission at this time. If not, then what I would like to do is to open it up for anybody in the public that would like to address us. And I specifically invite Senator Harper, who indicated that he might want to address us, because I know he has other obligations this morning. But if there's others that would like to address us, before we get to the Moab part, because after this brief interlude we'll have the Moab hotspot presentation, and I know we've got a couple of visitors that want to address us on that. Thank you for being here, Senator.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me here. A couple items I want to go over. First of all, I'd like to welcome Terry. I think that was an excellent selection for new deputy director. Even though I don't think the bill takes effect till, another month, Carlos is always ahead of time, so no, Terry, you cannot leave. You are there. It'll be kind of a loss to Region 3, but it'll be a big pickup for the entire state to have her here. I've worked with her on projects over the years, so thank you, Terry, for stepping up. Now, there's a small bill called Senate Bill 136 that was passed last session. Any questions on it? No, it really is a transformational piece of legislation. We went and reset UDOT, and I want to commend Carlos and his team. I could name a whole bunch of people who were involved. What we did in that bill would not have been possible without Carlos and Shane and Linda and so many other people. So thank you, and again, express my appreciation to all of your staff on that. Really great work on that. We went through and reconfigured UTA. We created some additional resources for locals and other entities to go through and prioritize projects, to go through and do funding and that. I really think we've created something, the framework, and let me say we are not done yet. We have a small task force to continue on over the summer, but we've created the framework and the structure now so that we can go through and be much more responsive to technologies, innovations, and the lifestyle changes that are happening now and over the next 40 years in the state of Utah. It is really something that's great. One of the things that you recognize as a transportation commission is that you'll have a few more duties given to you. You have a visioning document that needs to be created in conjunction with staff, that all the other plans from cities, counties, MPOs, AOGs, everybody will roll into that document. You'll have additional scoring criteria, including economic development, land use, things like that as you go through and deal with the prioritization process. And the partnership with UTA is much more close, especially as you go through and review the recommended projects that Transit have, and you put those into the prioritization process, and you do the scoring in that. It's going to be much more important to go through and take a look, not just is this a congestion mitigator on a state road or on a local road, but does this move people the best way? Is the biggest bang for our buck doing some transit, or is it transportation? Is it active? Is it passive? So congratulations on volunteering for these additional duties here. I'm really excited about what is out there. I'm excited about some of the teams and things like that. I've had extensive discussions after the session, and no, I didn't take a vacation yet, with UTA, UDOT, with some of the MPOs, with cities and counties, trying to figure out what's going on and what we need to do now and in the future. But I really commend to you this important assignment. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to need to work on together. And with that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for the senator?
Well, we want to thank you, Senator. This was a big, big load, and you led it with grace and precision and great execution, so thank you.
Thank you. We've got some additional funding that'll be going into transit.
Mm-hmm.
We got the first segment of that. We need to build it up because we need to have ongoing funds. And we know with what the federal government's doing, they're looking for entities that are have matching funds. I think we've got that framework set up. So again, I look forward to working with you in the future, and have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Senator.
you.
Appreciate
Many
you being
thanks,
here.
Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron?
Thanks. I just wanted to assure you
For the
that-
record, please identify yourself.
Ron Whitehead from Washington County. And I just wanted to assure you, to back up Commissioner Zanotti, that the sun is shining down south today. It's much warmer down that way. So, but I appreciate you guys coming down last meeting, taking a look at some of our areas that are not only up for the hotspot funding, but also seeing the areas that UDOT has got active projects going on down there, and they're making a big difference, the active projects, and the way we're able to move around and work. I told Rick I drive the Bluff Street project every day. There's ways around it, but I drive it every day just to see what's going on and where they're moving to and how they're moving along. I've not had any significant delays. It's moving along great. That'll be a great project for us. But I wanted to briefly talk to you about the hotspot funding. We appreciate you taking a look at all of our submittals for that hotspot funding. I think the longer this goes, the more we're seeing some creep in there of peripheral items that maybe the hotspot funding wasn't initially looked at for, but if we solve the congestion problem, take care of the roads like we're looking at, why that stuff will all fall in line afterwards. So there's a lot of good projects. Kaysville project sound good. I'm sure Moab's got some needs over that way too, and I'm sure they've seen some of the stuff we've had that's come in. That's a project that if we solve the congestion and get traffic flowing through there, everything else, the tourism and the economic development will follow in place with that. Anyway, I just want to say thank you, and we appreciate all the work you're doing for us. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Andrew?
Thank you, Commissioner. Andrew Gruber. I'm the Executive Director of the Wasatch Front Regional Council. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I also want to make a brief comment about Senate Bill 136. I think Senator Harper, who did, he stepped out for a moment. That bill was really a labor of love for many of us, Senator Harper particularly, and others here at the department and our partners. Now that bill was 5,973 lines. And one of my very favorite lines is 5,070. That's the line that creates the new Deputy Director of Planning and Investment. And do you know that one of the areas of responsibility for that position is right there in the statute, coordination with the metropolitan planning organizations and local governments. And so let me just say how thrilled we are to have Terry. Terry's been a great friend to local governments and metropolitan planning organizations for years, and we're just thrilled to be able to partner with her even more. So congratulations, Terry. And speaking of partnering, there's so much to do in implementing this bill. It really is visionary. And as Carlos and Terry and Shane and Linda and lots of my other friends here at UDOT know, we are very eager and ready to collaborate in implementing this going forward. We have a national reputation in Utah of working together collaboratively. The bill's an example of that, and there's so much to do, and we're ready to get going. So thank you, and congratulations again, Terry.
Andrew, thank you very much. Please.
Commissioners, my name's Kurt Hutchings. I'm with the Five County Association of Governments and the Dixie MPO down in sunny St. George. It was a nice trip up here. When we woke up this morning, we knew we weren't in St. George.
We still have memories of Springdale, though. You got to remember that a little bit.
Good. That's great.
Yeah,
I just
rainy and cold when we were there.
How was it?
In Springdale.
I just want to give you just a real brief update on visitation at Zion Park. At the end of 2016, there were we'd seen 4.3 million visitors to the park. End of 2017, we saw 4.5 million visitors. The first 3 months of 2017, January, February, March, visitation was at just over 550,000 people.
Wow.
The first 3 months of this year, 2018, January, February, March, we have seen a visitation of about 614,000. I don't have those numbers on that sheet, but I wasn't able to get them as quickly as I wanted to. What we're seeing is you can see in the colors of that chart that the shoulder seasons for the park they're going away. The green is giving way to yellow, and yellow is giving way to other hotter type colors. So I just wanted to give you that update. Do you have any questions for me?
Just wanted to make sure the commission knows that 600 plus for this year was even during the construction that we have right now going through that road. Right. So the construction doesn't stop the tourists from coming in.
Thank you, Commissioner. I meant to mention that.
Thank you very much for this report. Appreciate it. Are there others that wish to address the
I've
commission?
showed this to a lot of people.
This is just staggering.
It's amazing.
I mean, from 1 million.
Commissioners, thank you. My name is Gary Watcott. I am the city manager for South Jordan City. I'm here on behalf of our city council. I thought our mayor was going to make it today, but she's apparently in another meeting, didn't get out in time. So anyway, having been on your side of the table most of the time and not on this side of the pulpit, listening to public comment, it's kind of a different position to be in, but I wanted to say thank you. South Jordan has been the recipient for the last 15 years of many state-funded UDOT projects. And without them, I'm not sure where we'd be as a community. We have numerous state roads that run through our community. We have Redwood Road, 106 South. We have 114th South. We have the Bangerter Highway, and we have the Mountain View Corridor. And all of these are instrumental in our ability to move not only our residents, but commerce, and it's been part of our growth as a community. And oftentimes, you all don't hear the positive response of all these projects. Currently, we have 2 projects under construction in South Jordan. One is the widening of 106 from Redwood Road to the freeway, which includes intersection upgrades to as well on all the intersections that cross that street in that section, as well as we currently have the Bangerter and 114th project under construction. That project has been interesting. We've had some interesting crashes there that have raised some concerns with our residents, who not only I'm sure that UDOT's heard from our residents, but so do our local officials hear from them. But we want you to be assured we feel like the project is the right project for our community. In that particular location, the Bangerter Highway goes under 114 that stays on grade. We felt this project and this design was really critical for us, as 114th and Bangerter is one of our primary retail corner sections, and it's a huge hub for us for economic development and revenue dollars for our community. And this intersection, we feel, helps that continue to stay a sustaining piece of our revenue source. And it's vital to a community like ours to have those sales tax dollars be strong. We need those in our community. And it's also, the Bangerter Highway has opened the door for quite a bit of commerce, including office and new job creation, and as well as some of what's happening on the 104 and 106 widening projects. So not just retail dollars are we hunting, but we're looking for more sustainable things like job growth and job creation, and we're seeing that because of the investment we've made with you as a partner in transportation. And it just goes to show how critical these projects are to communities like ours. And oftentimes you don't get the credit for these difficult decisions that you make with limited funds. And the other part I wanted to tell you is, you know, these projects don't just happen without a lot of cooperation, you know, at the floor level. And our Region 2 Director, Brian Adams, and previous directors that we've worked with in Region 2 have been fantastic. I feel like South Jordan has one of the best relationships we've ever had with UDOT over the years, with what Carlos has brought to the table, his philosophy, and just the way that we've been treated as an equal partner in these projects, even though a lot of the funding is not the city's funding. Congratulations to Terry Newell. We worked with Terry way back, it seems like forever now, on the Mountain View Corridor EIS, and she did a great job. I'm thrilled for you in your position. But I just wanted to thank publicly, not only the commission, but thank our UDOT partners, and particularly those that work with me closely, like the Region 2 directors and his team, have been fantastic to work with. And just wanted to give them some public praise. We know later in the agenda there's some more Bangerter Highway interchanges coming forward, and I think that we have another intersection at 104 in Bangerter that may be on there as a future design project. We know that this has been a difficult project for UDOT to go under, but we feel like this has worked well in our community, and we know that we'll be asking UDOT to consider an underpass at this intersection as well. But we know that these may cost more money, but we're willing to step up and help with some of the betterments for that project because we feel like it's the right thing for us. So thank you for listening to us at the local level, letting us have our input, and sometimes letting us have our way, which has been really wonderful. And thank you for the investment you've made in South Jordan, which in fact is a greater part of Salt Lake County. And all of these things link together to help make us all, you know, have a better quality of life. So just on behalf of South Jordan and our city council and our mayor, Ramsey, we wanted to thank you all for your efforts in what you're doing. And particularly, you've made South Jordan a better place through your investment. Thank you so much, Carlos. Thank you very much.
Question?
Yes.
What is the current population of South Jordan, and what is expected to be at build-out?
So currently, we're at just over 70,000. We're about 71,000 residents, about 21,000 actual residential homes. Our build out is to be somewhere around 110,000. We're, just so you know, the kind of growth we're having, we're doing about between 900 and 1,000 new residential building permits every year.
Wow.
That's pretty aggressive.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And so you can imagine why these transportation corridors are so important for us. And if you look at South Jordan, it's a very linear in its shape. So east and west corridor are really huge for us. And these interventions of cutting off that from people way west having to drive all the way through South Jordan to get to I-15 now can hit Bangor Highway or in the future Mountain View corridor and disperse north and south without having to drive all the way east and west. It's going to really help some congestion issues that we have. So the plan that the MPOs are putting together and all the input that happens, you can start to see that realization of what that planning effort is starting to do. And as this growth impacts that, I think that we're seeing positive results. It's somewhat hard along the way. You know, we get these little, like this 114 and Bangor project, we have a few crashes and it's a bump in the road, but the long-term solutions, we get past these construction periods, it's just phenomenal what it will bring to our quality of life for our residents. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there others that want to address the commission? And let's move to the Moab presentation. We're glad that our Moab visitors were able to make it through our congestion here. So, not that you have any down there, and that's maybe not what we're even talking about today. Is that right?
We are.
Except we are, very much. We understand. We actually visited there. Rick?
Chairman, the mayor also has to get on a plane here shortly, so if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to probably have her give some comments first,
please,
and then
please.
And then we'll get into the actual presentation if that's okay.
That's perfectly fine.
So the new mayor of Moab, Emily Niehaus, and vice chair for Grand County Council, Curtis Wells, I think would both like to speak before they have to hurry and take off and get to the plane, and then I can give the presentation. That's
all right.
Okay.
That's just fine. Thank you very much for waiting. Mayor?
Thank you. I very much appreciate this, and sorry to feel like we're rushing in and rushing out, but as rural goes, we double task and triple task, especially when we come up here, shop and fly out and meet with all of you. I just want to say thank you we're very grateful to be one of the focus areas for this hotspot funding. The presentation's going to explain what we're looking at, but we do have a congestion opportunity, and that's the way I see it. We've got a good problem. We've got in Moab, our Main Street shares the truck transportation coming through Moab, and then we also have residents that are, driving through downtown to go to and from work, parking to, be part of downtown business. But then we also have, of course, our high visitation numbers. And our visitors are looking to have fun, as you know. That's, one of the great things about Moab is not just our, oil, gas, and mineral development that we share, with everyone on the Wasatch Front, but also the recreational opportunity. And, people are coming to Moab in RVs, and trucks are pulling trailers, and cars have bicycles on top, and compact cars driven by international visitors are also looking for a safe place to land, looking to get through Moab, find a safe place to land, and then enjoy 2 national parks and one of the busiest state parks that we have in Utah. So we've got a good problem, and this proposal addresses issues of congestion and supports local economic development efforts by creating parking opportunities, a safe place to land for all of us. And you said that you were in Moab recently? So
We have toured that area. I think it's probably been a year ago. And we'll be there again, but we have seen that area, yes.
And you remember the beautiful, experience that you have recreationally, but, visitors also remember congestion. And so, we want to keep, we want to continue to make sure that this visitation experience is a good one. That's how we're going to seed this economic engine. And we feel that the proposal in front of you all is the best short-term option to help reduce the friction points that we're feeling on Main Street. This hotspot funding is really critical and such a great opportunity to solve for this opportunity. But I also want to say that ultimately we believe that a bypass of some kind is the real long game key approach for good transportation management for Moab. We need to think about the truck drivers that are really trying to get through Moab. We need to create an opportunity for them to safely travel through the community and not have that friction point with residents and tourists. And then we want to give tourists a great place to land because they're coming to experience, Moab, not Moab's congestion issues. So we're excited about the study work that's happening now and the potential for a long-term solution. And in the next few years, the proposed Arches area hotspot projects could have an immediate and much-needed positive effect on congestion, our local economy, and our residents' quality of life. So thank you so much for putting us as a priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the mayor?
Yes.
What's the population of Moab today
We're about 5,000 in the city, 10,000 Grand County.
in the county? What's the hotel room number in Moab now?
Gosh, I don't know, but I can tell you that we've got several permits in queue with our building department to add hundreds more rooms to what we already have for stock.
So it is the energy of the city government to promote Moab and growth. Is that right?
Well, our energy is to not only promote and maintain the growth of the recreation economy, but we don't want to go backwards, and we want to make sure that we have the capacity. I believe that Moab is not full, but if you are in an RV coming to visit Moab and you're sitting in traffic, it's going to feel full. So we've got to unlock the capacity issue, and one way that we're going to do that is by solving for congestion. I want to be really clear how grateful I am for the north widening project of Main Street, because that's the first point that visitors feel, that constriction point right there at the north corridor. So thank you so much for the work and effort that's gone into that widening project. But now we need to think about the capacity in Main Street and how we're going to point positive the trucks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions for the mayor, please, Bobby?
Welcome aboard, Mayor.
Thank you.
What is your feeling of your citizen about the bypass? In the past, I know they had resistance to any kind of development in that location. So what do you feel and what is the recent feelings?
The time is now. We have to act now. We've got really good business support. I think that businesses along Main Street know that visitors are coming to visit Moab. That we have through traffic. That's been studied by UDOT, and from what I hear, we've got 30% semi-trucks coming through. That's 30% of our traffic driving down Main Street. And then of the remaining traffic, 20% of that is coming through Moab. That's the estimate that's been identified by UDOT. Moab is supporting a bypass right now. So the time is now to act on the study and the long game planning for it. Thanks for asking.
Are you getting any help from Grand County people as well in the council down there? Are they?
We are unified.
Their partner?
The city and the county are a unified front.
Okay.
You got a county
I'm looking
commissioner.
forward to hearing you.
Maybe this is a good time to. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
It used to be that they didn't want growth. The tree huggers come in.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, thank you very much for your time today. Again, my name is Curtis Wells, Vice Chairman of the Grand County Council. First off, I want to thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this program. It's a combination of some really great elements. There's a competitiveness to it, you know, that we appreciate, knowing that there's other communities with problems, but competition really, really breeds great results. But also, I can't thank you enough and compliment the staff of UDOT and Rick for their collaborative approach with our community and pulling leaders from Main Street and business, city, and county, and hammering out consensus on these projects, because I really appreciate the question regarding the bypass. And Moab and Grand County, we have a diversity of political views and ideologies and priorities, and it's opportunities like this that make the system work well together and compromise, and this has offered that. You know, in regard to the bypass, that's been my primary focus, is when this capital was appropriated by the legislature and we became aware of this process, bypass popped up in my mind because it's always been, in my opinion, the only real solution to the congestion issue, and the opportunity was still there. And so working with staff with UDOT, you know, I wanted to really understand the history. And what we found is there was times where the county was in support of the bypass project and there were times that the city was not, and vice versa. But we've come to a point due to the positive growth and the success of the tourism promotion by the state of Utah that it's going to be positive for business, we believe, for a bypass, both because of the statistics mentioned by Madam Mayor. 1/3 of the traffic is 18-wheelers, and the non-tourism flow of visitors that come through Moab. And so it definitely is a quality control issue, both for the visitors and the residents, but we see that it just makes sense. And so I'm here today to speak in support of all of the projects, you know, and as they're presented, but we feel that the time is right for the bypass, and that's the only real solution for the congestion issue for the community. The projects that the city has flushed out, I also speak in support of, you know, as a member of the Grand County Council, but a citizen that lives in the city, and that the two complement each other very well, the projects that were cultivated through this scoping process in the city, but that the bypass is absolutely the #1 priority, and wish for your support in those projects, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the commissioner? Thank you very much for making the effort to address us and be here today. We appreciate that effort. Thank you.
Thank you for the time, and we apologize. We've got to go catch a plane, but we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Travel safe. Thank you very much.
When we come down, we'll go get a French fry with you and get better acquainted. How's that?
We'll go to Bell's Small Shack.
Okay, we got a date.
And the airport just keeps growing down there too, as we heard last time. So.
Yes, that's right.
So Curtis woke up at 4 a.m. to head north today, so he's got a long day ahead of him. He's heading back tonight. So let's dive into the details of what they've talked about, since you guys have identified the projects or the areas to look at. UDOT has been engaged with both Moab City and Grand County on proposals that would help alleviate congestion and also hit the other two goals in the Senate bill to increase economic development and additional recreational tourism opportunities. So we followed the same process of what we did with Science area with the decision lens. We worked with Curtis Wells and the mayor and her staff to identify a key stakeholder group in Moab and collaborate together on solutions that we could come up with to help with the Moab area and the Arches area. So one of the main things we did was certainly planning meetings to identify, you know, how the visioning area for Moab would look into those 3 key support goals, and I've listed them here of what they came up with. Some of them are similar to the Zions area, some of them are unique to just the Arches area, but they kind of have same type of goals relative to those 3 main topics. And one thing that we did, we have received several comments on our website relative to the Arches hotspot categories. It talks a lot about transit system inside Arches, and I want to just make the commission aware that when we met with Moab and Grand County through this collaborative effort, which had staff as well as, like the mayor said, several key members of downtown business districts on that support group. So we had a really good stakeholder group that came together in Moab to look at this. We did not look at a transit system from Moab to Arches. And one of the main reasons why we did not look at that was currently with the Arches plan, there is no system in Arches for a transit line like they do have in Zions. So we did not look at that, but we have received several comments that it should be considered. But unless the Park Service moves forward with some type of shuttle system inside the park, we don't see that solving a lot of trouble to have a transit line come to the gate and dump people off and they have nowhere to go. Yeah, and Arches is a little bit different walking scenario. So we did not look at that in this hotspot discussion. So we'll dive right into some of the projects that have came up in here, and both of you, the mayor and county council, both discussed the Moab bypass. We are not ready to show any type of alignments right now on the Moab bypass. We have a separate study that is going with the $300,000 the commission has allocated for this group. We currently are engaged in a full-blown bypass study, conceptual alternatives. As you know, Moab is constricted in that area for opportunities with the Red Rocks on both sides, the Colorado River, the Matheson wetlands, the town. There's a lot of options, or not a lot of options for a bypass. So we have opened it up, and the town has been very good at looking at all these different options, one-way couplets, tunneling system. I mean, there's a lot of ideas to help solve this congestion issue, but we probably need 2 or 3 more months before we can come back and kind of show you what that potential bypass solution may look like and the potential costs related to that bypass. So that in their mind, when we scored it, was the #1 project, and you heard from those two that that's their long-term solution for Moab to keep it vibrant and healthy for tourism and for their community. So when it comes to how to relieve congestion in Moab after that, we had looked at multiple ideas, and one of the ideas that are coming out is conceptual right now. We have not, other than the committee that we had a lot of opportunity to vet this with the community, and that's part of the process that the city is doing right now. They have a couple of downtown parking committees and public open houses that they are doing, as well as a downtown look and feel study that they're doing as well. So they're taking the information that we had seen in here and moving forward with some public involvement on Main Street in general. But with this reduced congestion, there is a conceptual look at here at making downtown in Moab more pedestrian and bicycle friendly, and removing the friction that parking causes on Main Street. So we currently have Main Street parallel parking, and during the day when we have a lot of visitation, and we actually signed the semis to be in the left lane for Moab Main Street, not the right lane, which is different than most communities. We always want semis to the right. We actually asked semis for Moab to be in the left lane so that they don't have to deal with people trying to parallel park. So the parking is causing some of this friction as people drive up and down Main Street trying to find a parking spot, similar to what we talked to you about in the Zions area, as people just try to go back and forth on Main Street looking for a parking stall. That adds to the congestion in the town. So one of the conceptual ideas is to potentially look at a balance between parking and Main Street and see if there's some opportunities to reduce that friction between parking on Main Street. Obviously this has concerns from several business owners, so we're not, fully vetted this thing through the community yet, and part of the other proposals that we have help address some of those. So the third topic was parking, and you heard a lot from the mayor and Curtis Wells about parking. So There's a couple of parking solutions here around Main Street. One's on the west side of Main Street. It's a parking structure. Will contain around 320 stalls, 4 levels, at a cost of about $7.2 million. Both of these next 2 parking structures, the property is actually owned by the county or the city, and they would like to potentially partner on these parking structures, so it actually draws the cost down because you don't have to acquire the actual property. So this would be a west side. Main Street is right here on the map. This would be let me back out just so you can get a kind of a context of where this parking structure is at relative to Main Street. So here's the curve coming in. Maverick is right here on the curve when you come into Moab, and then this is situated not real center, but towards the center of Moab on the west side. The next parking structure that they were looking at so that one was located right in this area. This one is on the east side, another parking structure on the east side. This is Milt's right here, and Mill Creek comes under right here. So another parking structure that would alleviate parking on Main Street and in and around a couple of blocks both sides of Main Street, so that the tourism and employee parking could come here and open up walking and biking opportunities to visit the downtown, district of Moab.
Rick, is that the city offices just across the street there?
No, the city offices are right here, I think. City and Grand County offices I think are right there.
How big a parking facility is that?
They're both about 250 to 300 stalls.
Rick, any idea how much parking is on Main Street today? Number of stalls?
We have that in here.
If they're 50.
There's not, this would be the 50, there's 50 right there now, so it would be removed and go to 250, so you'd add 200 more at that location, because that is currently the parking spot right now. There's not a lot on Main Street. I think we have the number buried in here somewhere. I could get that. It's probably a couple hundred. So this would be adding probably about 500 stalls to the current parking system in Moab. The next option is what they call a dispersed, this would be the shared, this is their scoring. There's an option in there of shared use paths inside Moab to push more of active transportation and people riding to the downtown district for employees, as well as creating a system where people could move inside Moab on shared use paths. This one probably doesn't do as much for congestion as the other ones, as the parking structures do. The next one is dispersed parking. So this would be looking at other areas around the community that wouldn't be a full-blown parking structure. It would be surface parking and other opportunities to enhance the parking in and around Moab. Then one of the challenges that we have in Moab as well is south of Moab, and this area continues to grow as well. So this is actually moving south of town now. This is what they call the Spanish Valley area, and this is actually the county line where Grand County and San Juan County meet, and this whole area on the south is where most of the development is happening in the Moab area. Right. And we're seeing more and more congestion on 191 heading south of town. So this would be to continue the 5-lane section further south of Moab as we get more and more development that is occurring between the Spanish Valley area and the downtown Moab area. Spanish Valley in the San Juan area is really not developed over the last few years, but with an agreement with Grand County and San Juan County for sewer and water services. They now have reached that agreement, and San Juan County is looking to develop the south part of the Spanish Valley more and more. The other two concerns that the mayor talked about is recreational type traffic, both on the north and south side of Moab. Some of the challenges that Moab has is just the type of vehicles that are coming. The RVs pulling a Jeep, and Jeeps pulling RVs, and they're larger type vehicles that won't fit in those parking structures we talked about before. So we have not identified any key locations for recreational type parking, but they want to continue to study that and look at opportunities both south and Moab to create a recreational type parking lot to allow those people to park, and then how they, they park in their RV, jump in their Jeep, and drive around town is kind of the thought. But with the size of those are difficult for both hotel owners and the community to try to deal with. And then towards the end, a bike share program. This comes into play if you have the parking structures. People can get on a bike share program and ride a bike share program in and around Moab. And then a Cane Creek Boulevard project was one of the last scenarios. So if I, just to summarize, their top 3 or 4 are all related to the bypass and parking is kind of what it comes down to. And we're continuing to work with the community and looking forward to the opportunity to present, a project that supports Moab's vision as well as relieves congestion in Moab, as the mayor stated. So any questions related to where we've been with Moab?
Questions or comments?
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Just wanted to make sure also the commission knows and the staff knows that we had through the Community Impact Board, due to generosity of that committee award, the money was awarded to expand the airport, and also SkyWest got the contract to move from Grand Junction to Moab Airport to provide the service. That added quite a bit of the tourism, so they can stay in Utah rather than in Colorado. Also, continue with the Spanish Valley area. We also give some money to the expansion of the Spanish Valley sewer and water system. So that is going to really add impact and improvement for the developments of those communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Jim, it's really, for me, it's important to know how many hotel rooms there are, because that tells you the potential traffic of people that can come into that city each day. There's only 5,000 people living in Moab downtown, and twice that many up in Spanish Valley. But if there's 10,000 hotel rooms, that means 20,000 people a day.
I'll Google search it here in a minute and see if I can find it
I think,
but I do know that they are building, we have multiple requests right now for additional hotels. The Hyatt is coming in just north of town. We've just added, or they just added, the 2 Marriotts across the river over the last year, and we have 2 more that are on the north sector of Moab when we get to this map.
well, then those hotels all have parking. So
Yep.
those parking stalls there somehow need to be accounted for some of that population. But do they have a shuttle service that goes up and down the city, provides to move these people from hotels?
There is a private entity that's going to try to run that this year. It's not a public service, but there is a private development that is proposing a shuttle system inside Moab. We'll see how that works. I think the city has permitted that use. It'll just have normal stops along Main Street that they'll pick people up, but they are actually a developer's trying to make that work in Moab this year.
Well, it's really a great place, but they got a squeeze plate going on there. They only got so much dirt.
Yep.
Clean them out.
Everything else is rock.
Yeah, so here's where several of the other new hotels are going. If you look, the Colorado River Bridge is right here, and this first long zone coming into Moab, this is where we have our widening project that we're designing right now. And there are multiple hotels along this west side and one on the east side. The east side one's under construction right now. We have multiple permits for new hotels on the west side as well.
My goodness.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Please.
Ask
Yeah,
Rick a couple
Shane.
questions. Rick, what was do you have any idea how much the bypass would cost at this point?
No, I don't dare say a number yet.
Well, do you remember how much we spent just on the replacement of the bridge?
Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah, a lot of money.
let me come back to this map. So you obviously see the Colorado River winds through here. This is all the Matheson wetlands, so that's very difficult to do anything out across the Matheson wetlands. And then you get the development of Moab. One of the proposals back in the early 2000s, before we started building the 2 bridges across the Colorado River, was to use 279 and cross what they call the portal site right here of Moab, cross the Colorado River here and come on Cane Creek and then get back onto 191 here, and it would bypass the center part of town. We spent $38 million to build these 2 bridges here, so roughly $20 million a bridge. So there's $20 million right there if that's part of the bypass, let alone the roadway network and how you get it tied back into 191. So, yeah, it could easily be 60, 70 million dollars to get a bypass in that would work.
That project potentially falls out of the recreational hotspot just by sheer cost.
Yeah.
Okay. And then secondly, you have $1.6 million for Main Street improvements. That takes parking off, so the recommendation more than likely would be to add parking structure somewhere to accommodate that restriction of parking.
Yeah, so there's 150 parallel parking spots on Main Street right now.
Okay.
So this would, the proposal right now, and obviously there's concern from the local business owners, and several articles have been written that we need to strike that balance between what parking on Main Street and this, and how it delivers people to their businesses. That still hasn't been fully vetted out with the community, but we're working towards that. So a combination of one or two of the parking structures and some of that dispersed parking, could hopefully alleviate some of those business concerns of losing the stalls right in front of their business.
So our recommendation to the commission in the future will probably be a project set, not a specific one of these things.
Yeah, there'll be a combination of several.
Okay. Okay.
I also understand that most of the land involved in the bypass is a federal land. It's going to need a lot of NEPA process.
It could. I mean, most of it's a state highway already, SR 279 coming down on the west side. That's, I mean, preliminary, that's where it's looking like it's still going to be after we've run through the one-way couplets and a lot of other solutions that are out there. It's coming back right now, preliminarily, is the same alignment that we had looked at in the early 2000s.
Mr. Chairman, Rick, I just appreciate all the hard work into that. Really a reminder is it is not just a bunch of normal cars, whatever normal cars are. It is just every kind of vehicle on the planet you see there. So whether a parking structure takes that into account or otherwise, it's not your normal, parking in front of.
Yeah, it's not your normal commuting vehicle.
That's so true, and I like that idea though of a downtown shuttle. We saw that in Springdale. It seemed to work pretty well the other day in the rain in southern Utah.
I think if they move that all-you-can-eat pizza place from the downtown to the county line, will be really.
Yeah, then you have congestion down.
We were there last year. Yeah, move Zach's. That's the solution. Huh?
Yeah. Any other comments or questions for Rick? Rick, thank you very much for that.
Thank you. And
please indicate to the two visitors that had to leave our appreciation for their making the effort to be here with us today.
Yes. And their staff, for the last 4 months, and our staff has worked really hard together to try to get to this point because there wasn't a lot of plans in Moab. So this has been created quickly over the last 4 or 5 months, which is a really nice thing to see happen in a community like this.
Rick, this might be a loaded question, but in as much as this is an election year for county government, is there a chance down in Grand County there's going to be a major change in council members that are going to have impact on what we're just talking about here?
I have no idea.
Okay. Always does everywhere else.
Yeah, big impact. Yeah.
Rick, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll continue on then with our reports. We'll hear from the FHWA. Ivan, thank you for your patience. Good to have you with us.
Doesn't he look smart? Man, I like this guy.
I like that orange shirt.
I got the memo. Okay. Well, thank you for, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Good morning. Thank you for having me speak to you today. I want to start by congratulating Terry on her new job. Also, I know how much she loved being the Region 3 director and helping the people in Region 3 meet their transportation needs, helping them with that. And I know it wasn't an easy decision, but I know she's going to be amazing, just as she was amazing with Region 3. I know she'll be amazing as the deputy director. So looking forward to working with Terry. Congratulations. I had there it is. Thank you, Heather. I had a little quick presentation just to bring you up to speed on the omnibus appropriation bill that was passed last month. So just a couple of slides for your information, real quick. It's called the Fiscal Year 2018 Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development and Related Agencies Appropriations Bill. We like to call it the,
Only out of Washington.
and I don't even know what the acronym, you guys can put the acronym together if you want, but it's the fiscal year 2018 Omnibus Appropriation Bill, and it was passed by Congress and signed by President Trump on March 23rd.
Well, if you take the acronym THUD, turns out to be the THUD.
The THUD? Okay. Yeah, yeah, well, good. I'm surprised, yeah.
Okay.
We always like to come up with catchy phrases there, so let's see. So just real quick, and this is pretty much the only slide I have for you today. It provides $47.5 billion for the, and this is just the federal highway part of the bill, $47.5 billion for the federal highway programs. And it's 45 billion of which is out of the Highway Trust Fund, and it's consistent with the levels that were in the FAST Act. And this is significant because we've been under continuing resolutions for the last year or so. So we never really got to the FAST Act numbers as far as funding levels. So basically, it will result in about $3.5 billion in additional funding compared to the fiscal year 2017. There is also an additional $2.5 billion from the general fund, and finally the Tiger grants. We have a $1.5 billion for that discretionary program, and that's a $1 billion increase from what was in 2017. So again, I expect Utah to receive more funds than they did last year. I can't say the exact number, but we should be getting our numbers sometime by next week, and we'll be providing that to Utah so they can get to visit. And just a couple of items in there of interest. It does continue the repurposing of earmarked funds. If you remember, the FAST Act contained a language that allowed earmarks that had been sitting there for a while unused to be taken off of those projects and used on other projects. The only thing it does is it reduces the area where they can be used from 100 miles to 50 miles. So basically those funds can be used within a 50-mile radius of where that initial earmark was set. And the other thing is there's no rescission in this bill. However, it did not do away with the one that was in the FAST Act, so the one that's set to hit on July of 2020 is still in effect. So that's just the highlights of the omnibus bill. Any questions on that? Good. Okay, so anyway, just a couple other items real quick. I mentioned that there was $1 billion, $1.5 billion for the Tiger grant program. So on March 9th, Utah was awarded a Tiger grant in the amount of $15 million, and that's to help with the construction of climbing lanes in the Dog Valley Pass interchange in Region 4. So that money should become available to you. That once we go through the whole process of getting those. There's some agreements that have to be put in place and all that. So we'll work with you to get that done as quickly as possible, so those funds can come and be put to good use here.
Yesterday, Bridget said that you're going to deliver it in 3 months.
3 months? Is that the promise? Okay. So we have. Well, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised. That seems to have a way of doing things very quickly. Yeah, so it's kind of out of our hands. I think it goes up to the Secretary of Transportation level, so we can get her to sign off on it. We'll get it done. We did have another grant awarded to you. That this is for a pilot project. It's called the Resilient and Durability to Extreme Weather Pilot Program. And basically, there's about $250,000 that UDOT and Wasatch Front and Mountain Land Association of Governments applied for and received. And what this does, it helps them develop this tool that will allow regional planners to take extreme weather events into consideration as they make decisions, capital investment decisions. So basically, what should result from this is that we'll have more robust transportation systems. So again, $250,000 towards that effort. Obligation limitation, before the omnibus bill was passed, we were under continuing resolution. So on March 23rd, we issued our obligation limitation to you that in the, which brings that total amount to $148 million. So by next week, we should have the full year's amount, so we'll be up to our normal levels around $360 million plus whatever extra comes from the omnibus bill. So I know that regions will have no problem putting that money into the projects. You guys probably did already yesterday. I wasn't at the workshop, so I'm sure I missed out on that.
Yeah, that money's already spent.
It's already spent. Okay, there you go. The last item I have for you was the on Tuesday, on April 10th, the Department of Transportation joined several other departments: the Department of Interior, Agriculture, Commerce, Housing and Urban Development, Energy, Homeland Security, the Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Federal Environmental Regulation Commission, the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, and the Federal Permitting Improvement and Steering Council. Did you get all those, Heather? We signed, all these agencies signed an MOU. It's on Federal Permitting Improvement. It's called the One Federal Decision under Executive Order 13807. And basically what this does is meant to improve improve and streamline the environmental review process. You may have heard that sometimes all these different agencies are involved in they have approval action in the way we advance projects to the environmental process, and sometimes we have to do things more than once to get that whatever approval we need from the particular agency. This MOU hopefully will resolve that. It assigns one lead agency to be responsible for dealing with all the other agencies to advance the project to the federal environmental review process. It establishes timetables for completing those processes, and the target is to get them all done within 2 years, and then it also calls for issues to be elevated at the proper time to make sure that those issues are resolved in a timely manner. So we hope that this will continue to expedite the way projects are delivered throughout the nation. The last one thing I want to bring up, and Senator Harper mentioned how quickly UDOT jumped on getting the deputy director seat filled. There is a requirement on MAP 21 that transportation asset management plans be submitted to Federal Highways, developed and submitted. And I'm happy to say that UDOT was the second state to get their plan in. We got it on April 6th, so they were due April 30th. So again, thank you for being so quickly and getting those plans in. Asset management is nothing new to UDOT. I think it's standard practice here. So, but it was a requirement that asset management plans be put together and submitted. So they're in, and I'm fairly confident that we'll have no problem getting it approved or accepted. So thanks again for getting it in so quickly. With that was all I have for you today. I'm glad to answer any questions for you.
Just as a delight to work with you and Rishi. Thank you. That's it.
Yes, thanks for always helping us out.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
You guys make it easy for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you.
All right, we'll continue to move forward with our reports. I think we have the UDOT scoreboard.
Is this, oh, there we are. Short, put that down. All right, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm not going to take too much time, but we're going to go through the project development dashboard that we have here. As you can see with pre-construction, if you want to look at our advertising performance, our goal is at 85, and right now we're at 93. We have basically 11 projects to advertise in the next 60 days. And really, if you really look at the number of projects that we have, there's 487. So we have a very big program, but we're meeting our commitments. And if you have any questions, please stop me. So now we'll go down into the next area where total cost for the cost estimates for projects. And if I can go down here. It's not. Sorry, let me get this. The total's not showing right now, but if you on the whole project values that we have are about 89 million. If you add all of the project values, and if you look at the committed dates, we're really meeting all of our committed dates. There are a couple here that are in yellow, and I believe those will be complete this month.
Carmen, that was 89 million in the last 30.
In the last month?
Last month, oh yes, I'm sorry, from the last month. This is the chart that I think speaks, to really what we're doing. This is the advertising status of our projects in the last 30 days, or the last month, I should say. As you can see, all the green, we're advertising early or on time. There's a few past due projects that are in black. Once they do advertise, they will turn red. A lot of those are some local government projects that we're trying to work through, either some agreements or things came up within the design that had to be modified. So we do expect those to be advertised soon. But if you actually look out here too in April, May, June, you can see that some are green. So we are working to advertise our projects early and get them out. This is the project count in construction with contracts. The bar chart goes with the value of contracts paid and the remaining to pay. So if you look where we are today, the contract remaining is about almost 800 million, and we've already paid out almost 600 million there. The line that you can see here is the number of projects that correspond, and I think, if I can get on this, but I think there's about 165 projects active in construction right now. Moving on down to contractor payments. As you can see, in April, we're almost up at about 40 million. And as we track this, we would expect this again to be going up in July and August and then back down. So if you want to compare to where we were last year, I mean, we're above, but we have a very healthy program right now. Moving down to kind of times elapsed and project complete. We're trying to kind of work on what this looks like, but for the most part, if you look at the green, we are completing our projects on time. And then getting down, I think this is the last one, but what we really look at is the contract award versus engineer's estimate, and we really want it to look, very, very close to the same. We want to be in line with what the bid comes in with what our estimates are on the projects. And as you can see, from the past and where we are today, we're pretty much in line. There is an anomaly here, and that would be a very big design build project that we have in Region 3. And that's what we have from project development at this point in time, and I'm welcome to take any questions.
Any questions for Carmen?
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carmen.
Good morning, Commission. Appreciated the time yesterday to talk to you. And Commissioner Kramer did confirm what I said about driving fast. It helps everything, so.
Exactly.
In order to keep everything on schedule, we're at 98%. I'm not done. Are there any questions? Based off of yesterday, see? I have a fan. Anyway, 90% is a really good number for our safety score. We've talked about this in the past. As you can see here, here's our historic safety index. And As I've talked about in the past, March was not a good month for us on our roadways, and you can see the scale on this makes it look a lot more drastic than it really is. You know, we went from just under 98 and dropped down to just under 95, so 3 percentage points, but it does look like we went off a cliff. But it does show how our score is impacted by our fatalities, which is weighted heavily, as was determined by this group. So our target, as you can see, our 2.5% reduction target was 60. We're currently at 52, so we're meeting or exceeding our target. We continue to be at 0 on employee fatalities. Serious injuries, we're just a little bit over our target, 37 versus 36. So we need to do a little bit better there. That's based off of, you know, the crashes that are typically higher, so serious injuries, but their fatality numbers are lower. I really want to, I can't say this often enough, our employees, our leadership have really embraced the behavior-based safety program here at the department, and you can see that by the number, or by our injury rate per month. And this is good when this one drops and goes down. So quite proud of what our employees have done there. We're finally starting to get some of our crash numbers. As we've talked about in the past, they typically lag about 3 months. So you can see that basically a month's worth of crashes, where our actual crashes is around 2,100 and our target was 2,400. So that's another good thing. And that does speak to having a light winter. So our severity is typically up when we have our dry roads. The number of crashes is down when we have our dry roads, and that number basically mimics that. Our equipment damage rate still above our target. It's something we continue to look at and look for causes and ways to do this. A lot of times stuff like this is a combination of an improved training for our drivers and using equipment. I have an opportunity to look at those equipment damage reports, and a lot of them kind of speak to a lot of turnover in our Trans-Tech area and having people that are operating machinery and aren't as familiar as we would like with that machinery. So we hope to, Lori Economy is helping greatly in putting together a very good training program for all of our employees, which matches Carlos's top 10 of having the best trained employees and the best training program in the country. So basically that's all I have for you today, unless you have some questions.
Any questions for Jason? Very good, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Rick, you got an answer.
It shows 30 hotels and motels in Moab for around 2,000 rooms, and we know of about 4 more hotels on the book, so it's going to be 2,500 rooms or so in Moab, outside of all the RV and dispersed camping that happens.
Right.
There's a lot of RV pads in Moab as well. So.
That swells the town by 50% overnight.
It also shows that advertising really works.
Yeah.
Yes,
And that's
bring in the hotels.
But that's what the restaurants and the souvenir shops want. They want them people walking the streets.
I know. Balance.
All right, let's move forward with our agenda. We get to the business items at this point in time. We've got a fairly long list of business items to take care of. Let's look first at the consent agenda. The approval of the minutes of our meeting down in Springdale last month, and also the return of the funding adjustments at the awards and post-construction. The returning funds amount to about $25 million. The biggest portion of that coming out of Region 3 with the Tech Corridor project that we discussed yesterday. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second on the motion.
It's been moved and seconded that the consent agenda be approved. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that's been approved. Bill, are you gonna walk us through this list of projects here?
Yes, I am.
Let's spend some money.
I probably should have brought some water up, but if I get thirsty, I'll go back.
Yeah.
I'm good, I'm good. Yeah, we have a healthy, item here, let's see. Let's scroll up. Okay, we'll go ahead and, go through these. We'll start with, item 7A-1. This is a Region 1 request to add $2 million to the SR 134 interchange modification project. It's currently funded at $6.2 million. The $2 million would come from the region's 2018 Transportation Solutions Program. The funded scope of the project is to provide additional lanes on SR 134 and help increase the operations around 134 and the I-15 interchange. Operations are improving by adding an additional lane east and westbound on SR 134 from I-15 to Rule and White. The additional funds will also provide a mill and fill to remove the existing sill coat and place a new one that aligns with the proposed lane lines. So it's like to seek approval to add $2 million to the SR 134 interchange modifications project as detailed.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that this addition be approved. Any questions?
Can I just ask one, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
The description referred to an unfunded balance, is that an available balance?
Available balance, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair, can I ask Bill a question as well?
Yes.
Bill, was this on the proposed list that the commission saw yesterday for transportation solutions? It was, okay.
On unfunded, yeah.
All right,
Yes.
let's make sure that we are checking those boxes. Thank you.
Thank you for the observation, it was.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next item is 7A-2. This is another Region 1 request, approval to fund a new project on I-84. This is a fence repairs box elder project. This would be for $900,000. There are several locations along I-84 in Box Elder County between mileposts 20 and 42 that the original
That's
fence.
basically from Tremont and going west, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a long section heading west towards Snowville.
Right.
Yeah.
Through that long stretch.
The fencing in that area right now was part of the original project when it was built and has really reached its life. And so the purpose of this project is to replace some of those locations that are highest with deer crossings and prevent those. I think I covered all that, so I'd like to seek approval to add this project to the STIP as detailed.
I so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that this fence repair budget be approved and added to the STIP. Further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay. There was a picture. I forgot to show the picture.
Yeah.
That shows the old fence. All right, next item is 7A-3. This is a request to add additional funding to the I-15 200 North Kaysville ramp, southbound ramp meter project. It's currently funded at $500,000. The $350,000 in funds for this request is available from unprogrammed balance in Region 1's Transportation Solutions. I said that correct that time, right? So.
I was just making sure I understood it properly.
The additional funds are needed to provide sufficient ramp widening to provide adequate storage for ramp meters to avoid backing up onto 200 North. I think we have the location.
Yeah, that's a real problem there in Kaysville. Sometimes it does get backed up a long way on.
People going eastbound,
No,
eastbound
people
trying to
going-
get on southbound I-15.
Trying to get on southbound,
Yeah.
yeah. They're going west on 200 North, trying to get southbound.
Right.
So I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that this be approved for the addition to the Kaysville southbound ramp project. Further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that's also been approved.
Okay, next item is 7A-4. This is the Bangor Highways 4 interchange project. This was mentioned yesterday during the STIP workshop as the need for the additional funding there. just highlighting that discussion was for additional cost to right-of-way, and also that the project was awarded using up all the contingency. So with additional costs of utilities, with the right-of-way issues, they're requesting an additional $12.8 million for this project. This would be an increase of 6.4% from what's currently funded. And so would like to seek approval to add $12.8 million of TIF to the 4 interchange on Bangor Highways project as detailed.
I so move.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that the addition to these 4 interchanges on Bangor be approved. Is there any further questions or comments?
Just a comment.
Please.
That was my path this morning. You remember I was late yesterday because I did the I-15 thing.
You got my
From
vote.
Riverton. Today I did Bangor, and it's awesome. The work that's being done there is really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, they're doing some terrific work there to make Bangor flow really smooth.
Yep.
Yes.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next item is, excuse me, 7A-5. It's a Region 2 request for $9.7 million of TIF funds on the SR 68 Redwood Road, Bangor Highway to 126 South project. Again, this also was discussed yesterday for the additional TIF funding that was needed. This project is also related to the additional costs due to right-of-way costs going up. They also had the project awarded with a high contingency, used up a lot of the contingency amount in that.
This was the project that moved from 5-lane to 7 lanes.
To 7 lanes,
Right.
correct.
Well, so there's,
In some cases, 2 to 7.
yeah, yes.
Well,
Yeah.
7's the magic number.
And then we also had some additional construction costs increase due to extending the project into 2018 in negotiations of the right-of-way. And so we'd like to add this funding, which would be a 25.6% increase on this project from where it's currently funded.
I so move.
Second. Been moved and seconded that this addition be made to the Redwood Road project. Questions?
Mr. Chairman, I will make my comment again, that anytime you use cents, you know, in something this big, it really looks like it's like Russian rubles or Argentine pesos or something. It makes it look like a really big project. I realize, oh, at least 2 of those digits aren't needed to be there. So for the record again, the 91 cents, I'm not approving, but everything else I'm with. Trying to be careful with the taxpayers' money here. Okay.
It's
Anyway.
a good use of taxpayer money.
Yeah.
Well spent.
All right. Point made, hopefully.
That having been said and point having been made.
Strike out the rubles.
We'll take out the 91 cents.
I take out the 91.
All in favor?
Yeah, round.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, rounding.
Rounding,
Thank you.
rounding is a good
It's
thing.
been proved that they rounded up.
Okay.
Commissioner Kramer, 91 cents buys a lot of merchandise in Russia.
Yeah,
It does,
you know what?
It does.
Don't tweet that out.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment real quick?
Yes, please.
In the consent agenda, you approved almost $24 million coming out of TIF. You just approved moving that money right back into the program on 2 specific projects. Just want to point it out for those in the audience that saw a big takedown of TIF, it's back into the program, getting to work right
It's
now.
been right back in there.
Yep.
Yeah, but good point. Thank you.
Didn't even
Thank
get a
you
chance to do
for
it.
that addition.
No,
We
that's-
appreciate that.
Okay, next item is 7A-6. This is the Region 3 US 40s projects combination, as well as a scope and funding reduction. So Region 4 has the US 40 Roosevelt
Region
Augusta.
3?
Or Region 3? I saw the US 40 and said 4. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Region 3 US 40 Roosevelt Augusta project. It's a pavement rehabilitation project on US 40 in the Roosevelt area. It's funded for $15 million. The other project is the US 40 Gusher eastbound lane and center turn lane project, which is adjacent to the pavement project, and it's funded for $12.3 million. So I'd like to combine both of these into one project for economy of scale, as well as having less impact on the traveling public. The region is also recommending the work for both of these be completed under the US 40 Gusher eastbound passing lane and center lanes project. In addition, part of the original limits of the pavement project was completed with another project last year, so not all the funding that is on that project is now needed. The region would like to remove $4.5 million from that and return that money to the pavement program to be used on other pavement projects. The new project value for the combined projects would be $22.8 million, which is a decrease of 16.48%. So we'd like to seek approval to combine these two projects into the one, as well as reduce the scope and funding on the US 40 West Roosevelt to Gusher project as detailed.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that this adjustment be made on the US 40 project. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that's been approved.
The next item is 7A-7. This is another Region 3 request, which is to add $518,000 of Transportation Alternative Program funds to the SR 114 1600 North to State Street PG project. It's currently funded at just over $1,900,000 minus the 90 cents.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
The region would like to add this funding, which is current year tap balance, in order to widen a nearby railroad crossing on the North County Boulevard, which provides enough width to stripe for bike lanes on that corridor. The final project value will be just over $2.4 million, it's an increase of just over 27%.
Kept the 90 cents in there.
Yeah. So we'd like to seek approval to add $518,000 of transportation alternative projects or funds to this project as detailed.
For the minute purpose though, you mentioned Region 1 again, but it's a Region 3.
Did I say that?
Yeah,
Region 3, sorry.
Region 3. I'll move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that this addition be made to the, I think this is Geneva Road, isn't it?
Yes.
114?
There's a map up right there.
Yeah, the Geneva Road project. Any further questions?
Are there a lot of bikers in that area these days? Is that pretty popular? Hope so, I mean, I'm just curious.
It's on a route that we've identified in our overall plan for cycling.
For bike lanes, yeah.
It's not too far from UVU, is it?
Yeah.
Any further questions?
A lot of
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Yeah.
The next item is 7A-8. It's a Region 4 request to add $895,000 to the Region 4 ferry engine replacement and retrofit project. It's currently funded at just over $1.1 million. The funding would come from $235,000 of STP funds, which are available from balance available in Region 4's Transportation Solutions Program. There's $430,000 of STP enhancement funds that are also available from the SR 276 ferry ramp extensions project, which is constructed and in the closeout process, and then the balance of it using $230,000 of state programming funds. These, if you recall, both these were funded at one point under the same pin. They pulled them apart so they could award them at different times and get those done. So this one's now being awarded, and this will allow this project to move forward. So we'd like to seek approval to add $895,000 to the Region 4 ferry engine replacement and retrofit project as detailed.
I seem to recall that from an earlier discussion that it was really hard to find parts for this ferry, apparently.
Yes.
They did. And I'm not sure what the status on that engine replacement is.
I think that's an engine replacement, it's not a
Yeah, this is replacing the engine so that we're not having to go out.
The old one
to
couldn't
those,
be fixed.
Exactly, out of Norway to get the stuff through Canada and everything else. So there are terms in here that we don't talk about very often that is part of this project. So this will add mounted thrusters, line cutters, diesel engines, remote drive system, gearboxes, auto lubrication, engine skids, anti-suction plates. It's a very unique project for us that...
I was going to say, that's a little different than mill and fill, isn't it?
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
sure.
Just a little different.
How long will it be out of service in
Well,
that
we
area?
have it running right now,
Yeah.
and it'll stay running until we take it down next winter and replace everything. So
Oh,
we normally
okay.
go down
We're
during the
gonna-
winter
we're
most
just
of the
gonna
time
do it
anyways.
through
So
next winter, so
yeah,
we're
we're
not
gonna
gonna interrupt the
try to
service.
limp it along again this summer and make sure everything, but we have no spare parts right now at all for the boat. So this is to plan to upgrade it. It's been running on the drive system and the engine system for nearly 20 years with just very reactive maintenance. This is finally a rehab to bring it up to current systems.
See,
So-
most
so
people,
it-
go ahead.
Well, so is this a replacement of the original engine and
Yeah.
driveline?
Yeah.
Or is it a completely new system that fits in?
It's new, it's both. It's a new, bringing everything up to new standards of how to operate ferries. We've had both of the folks that put in bids are from the Midwest that run a lot of ferries up the Mississippi River, barges and everything else. So yeah, we've had to go totally outside of our normal wheelhouse to figure this project out.
Well, most people don't know we have a Navy.
Yeah.
Utah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
okay.
and even this, we have to work closely with U.S. Coast Guard, which is
No,
something
no,
that we
excuse
don't
me,
normally do.
Coast Guard.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So Rick, this is, we have bid the project, received bids. We don't have enough money to award. So
Yes.
this isn't a change in our estimate, this is enough money to actually award the project at this point.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I'll move for approval.
Been moved and seconded that we approve our,
We haven't seen that in a
the
long
upgrade of our Navy. Is there any further questions or comments about this expenditure?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Who knew?
Thank you, the Navy can go forward.
Coast Guard.
Coast Guard, floating something.
Don't go there, keep going.
All right, next item is 7A-9. This is the I-15 SR 143 northbound off-ramp modification as well as a funding addition. Region 4 is requesting approval to add $225,000 of Transportation Solutions funds to this project. It's currently funded at $400,000. The funds for this request, or the additional funds on this request, are available from the balance in their Transportation Solutions program. The original concept of this project overlooks such items as double cattle guards for wildlife. It didn't show all the signs that would be needed. Originally, the roadway excavation of old portion of the ramp was to be completed by the county, but it made more sense to include this as part of the project as UDOT's responsibility. The concept estimate items such as asphalt with lower unit costs consistent with low quality items. The project is still using $70,000 in a partnership with Parowan City and Iron County for the road work and utility relocations prior to the construction of this project. The new project value would be $625,000. And so I'd like to seek approval to add the $225,000 of transportation solution funds to this project as detailed.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the roughly $250,000 be added to this project in Parowan. Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that's also been approved.
Okay, next item is 7A-10. This is a lengthy one, so I'm just going to hit these one at a time as we go through. So structures are requesting approval for the listed funded changes to the following projects. So the first project under letter A, this is the 24th Street Viaduct Rehabilitation Project in Ogden. This project was approved at $26.3 million in 2020. The original scope included a complete deck replacement. A recent feasibility study determined that deck replacement is not necessary and that the rehabilitation could be completed in with a lot less funding. The request is to reduce the total project value to $9.55 million, which is a reduction of $16.75 million, with $1 million of it in 2019 and the rest in 2020 for construction. So of this $9.55 million, $1.55 million of it is for an ADA ramp on the east side of the structure using statewide 2020 Transportation Solutions funds for this. UDOT, in working with Ogden City, Senator Buxton, and WFRC identified the need to add this ADA ramp. Currently, there's only metal stairs that provide access for pedestrians to use the existing sidewalk that runs down the south side of the 24th Viaduct. The ADA compliant ramp will better facilitate access for the community. So the funding coming off of this takes it really down to the $8 million from what the original was, but we're adding in the 1.55 for Transportation Solutions funds to be able to add that ADA ramp. Any comments or questions on that one?
Just want to say thank you, Carmen, for a wise decision.
Okay, I'll move on to B, is the Bridge Inspection Program. This was discussed yesterday by Carmen. The request is to add $400,000 for each of the years 2018 through 2021. This is to account for the increase in inspection costs due to inflation and due to additional condition-based inspection requirements. Additionally, a request to add $600,000 in the year 2019 for the underwater bridge inspection program, which is needed every 5 years. This would be a total add of $2.2 million to this program.
I just would like to commend Carmen again. I'm just completing my first cycle here, and it's just so interesting and so helpful to understand all of the parts and pieces and how carefully they're watched.
The next item is C, which is the structural load rating maintenance program. The request is to add $300,000 for each of the years 2019 through 2021. This is to account for the additional load ratings needed for emergency vehicles as mandated by FHWA, and additional load ratings that are necessary as bridge conditions change due to aging. So this would add an additional $900,000 to this program.
Over 3 years.
Over 3 years, yeah.
Correct.
And then on D is the Jordan River Bridge. This is a rehabilitation project, was funded in 2019 for $720,000. Due to continued deterioration, this bridge needs to be evaluated for replacement rather than the rehabilitation. So the request is to remove this project from the STIP and to evaluate it for a replacement project in the appropriate year, and that would be brought back in the future. And then E is SR 65, Hennifer Bridge Rehabs. Is 2 structures, C 566 and D 772. Was approved for $2.3 million in 2019. This request is to modify the project value to $5.6 million, which is an increase of $3.3 million. Designed in 2019 with $800,000, and construction with balance in 2020. The additional funding added to this project is to change the scope of work to replace the bridge at the East Hennifer interchange rather than a rehabilitation project. A bridge replacement will provide a better cost benefit and is more appropriate due to the level of deterioration of this structure.
So the one bridge we don't need to rehabilitate it.
Right.
This one we do, and so we're going to replace it rather than just repair it.
Yeah. And then lastly is F. This is the I-84 bridges over the Weber River and UPRR project. This project was approved for $16.8 million in 2020. Feasibility study was recently completed for these 2 bridges to determine the best strategy for replacement, and the outcome of the study indicated a need for more funding. The request is to increase the project value to $36 million, which is an increase of $19.2 million, and the cash flow the funding over 3 years there is detailed. The funding is available for these requests from unprogrammed efficiency balances within the structures program, $6.58 million and $1.55 million from the Transportation Solutions program. So we took some off and we added some back in, and then brought the additional in from their program.
With all of the changes, the net adjustment is an upward move of, what is it,
6.58 million plus the 1.55 of Transportation Solutions.
Right.
So we'd like to seek approval to make all these changes as detailed.
So moved.
Motion. Second.
Been moved and seconded that all of these projects from the Structures Division be approved as detailed. Any further questions on any of the projects? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Build those bridges, Carmen.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is 7A-11. This is regarding this last legislative session, House Bills 2 and 3. During the session, both these bills were passed, and in these bills it had language to use transportation funds to fund these projects. The first one is a sound barrier at I-80 and Glendale Avenue for $1.7 million. And then also project on State Route 172 and Paulette Avenue for $550,000. I didn't say that number right, 1.7 million. I don't think I said that right on that first one. So $550,000 on the next one, and then Route 134 in Pleasant View for $850,000. Got a table here that describes what each of these projects would be. For the first one there, on 134 in Pleasant View, it's to do the design, engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and improvements for the intersection on that route adjacent to the canal. Then, of course, you have the sound barrier on Interstate 80, and then the same thing as the first one at the other for the location at 172 on Paulette Avenue.
Where is that Glendale Avenue?
I-80 in Glendale.
So on I-80 from just about Redwood Road, if you're going eastbound.
Eastbound or westbound?
Eastbound.
From Redwood.
From Redwood towards I-15. So it's Redwood to the Jordan River, that area right
Okay.
there. There's a section of wall that's just not there that would protect that community on the south side of
On
I-80.
the south side of I-80.
Yep.
Okay.
So
I'll
we'd
move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve these that have been provided to us by the legislature during this last session. Any further comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next item is 7A-12. This is a project that the Traffic and Safety Group is requesting that we add a new project for various routes, which would be a 6-inch paint striping project to the STIP for $2.5 million. So while researching effective roadway treatments, UDOT identified research conducted in other states that showed the installation of 6-inch wide pavement markings are effective in lowering the number of injury and fatal crashes on highways. They also collected data from Missouri showing that increasing the width of the striping from 4 to 6 on rural roadways can provide a benefit cost ratio of 10 to 1 in lowering the injury and fatal crashes. So the purpose of this project is to increase the safety by helping drivers avoid run off the road lane departure crashes. And the project will identify and install these 6-inch striping sections on rural interstate and rural highways to demonstrate and to confirm if the results can also be achieved here in Utah. The $2.5 million of funding is available from the Highway Safety Improvement Program, the Section 154 HSIP monies, which was part of the funds that were the DUI penalty that got transferred from our
That's that 7 million,
yes,
whatever it was that we talked about last month.
So they're going to use some of those funds as well as the regular HSIPs to make up the difference. And the Section 154 funds need to be obligated in this current federal fiscal year. So it's be a good project to put them on. So we'd like to seek approval to add the statewide 6-inch pavement marking demonstration project for $2.5 million as detailed.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that this project be approved. I have a question or a comment. This $2.5 million that we're approving, how many lane miles of marker will that cover? I mean, it's pretty expensive stuff. So do we have any idea about what these demonstrations will actually cover how many lane miles?
We did, huh?
Yeah.
That's a crazy question, sorry about that.
No pressure, Jason.
When there's a crazy question, we know who answers them.
Guy that goes fast.
I guess some people learn quicker than others up here. So I'm not going to give you a straight answer on this, the way we've imagined that. But the way that our group has, we put a group together, they've looked at multiple different road segments and looking at the benefit cost ratio as described by Bill on how we're going to select those. And because it's such a mix of multi-lane interstates and rural roads and a mix of tape and water and poly types of paint, basically we'll start at the top of the list and start pricing it out, and then because of the short time frame, that's why we moved it to the agenda without really having a solid answer about how many miles that we'd be able to do, but basically be able to go through there and get as many miles as we can to obligate those funds and go from there. I was looking at the list this morning. They just basically got done with the second round of analyzing and putting together the numbers, and it was interesting that every region has a segment that they see a benefit of this in the top 4, and it's a mix of, I mean, we've got 89 in Region 1 and US 6 in Region 3 and 80 in Region 2 and then I-15 in Region 4. So I mean, those are just the top 4, and it's a mix of concrete and asphalt and tape and waterborne. So we're going to be working with the regions to figure out how best to do this and to make it make sense. We don't want to do a 25-mile stretch of 6-inch and then skip 10 miles because we're not seeing the benefit cost and then start it back up.
Right.
Our drivers just would think we'd lost our minds and didn't know what we were doing. So we'll try to put common sense to this as well as engineering data to support our decisions.
Jason, do you have an idea of what it costs per mile, regardless of where it is, to put these wider stripes on?
It's incrementally more than what our 4-inch was. So
proportionally more?
Yeah, I mean we're.
Is it 50% more?
It's not 50%.
Say that you're going to get that information.
More material based.
Okay. I was really close to just giving them a number.
Yeah, we'd be satisfied and wouldn't know the difference.
But that wouldn't be fair. I will get that number for you, and we'll have a cost breakdown of what the extra cost is.
Okay.
We have looked at if we did all the rural interstates in the state with this 6-inch, what additional costs that would be to our Code 1 program, and it's in the millions of dollars.
I'm sure it would be, because this is expensive.
That's a lot. That's a lot more than what we're looking at, and we want to make sure we have the benefit cost and before we move forward to that extent.
Okay.
But I will get you that information about how much more it costs and how many lane miles we're planning on doing.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments?
Well, I hate to get into the nitty-gritty here, but I assume these trucks that do the painting, it's a nozzle that has to be wider to spread the material of the 6 inches rather than 4.
That's just about it. It's the cost of 2 inches more of paint and a different nozzle. But you're out there, traffic control, you have the labor.
Right,
All those things
everything
are already
else
covered.
would be the same.
Yep.
Right, okay.
It's not
We
50%
also
more.
we also have some of our suppliers, 3M specifically, that has talked about possibly donating some of their 6-inch tape material that's, I won't call it experimental, but it's the newest thing, so that we get a chance to see how that
And they
looks.
get a chance to find out if it's
They do.
gonna
It's a
stand up
win-win
to the
for both.
traffic.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So
Was
we're going to
Missouri
maximize
statewide?
that. What's that?
Was Missouri statewide?
Yes.
So what kind of timeline are you gonna need? You're required to know the results. Is it helping or not helping?
So we typically look at like a 3-year, but if we see drastic results sooner than that, then we would probably be coming to this, or we'd be come to leadership and looking at what that cost
We
is.
normally like to see 3 years of traffic data on a safety study, so I would say that results are, we're gonna have to have at least 3 years of data before we're gonna say that we've seen statistical change.
And Missouri's done this for a little bit of time, so we can leverage some statistical
You can
data
learn from
them.
them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The difficulty is a lot of the states that are using this are warm weather states, and they don't have to do the treatment, so the benefit cost doesn't match up exactly to what we see.
Right, okay. Again, further questions or comments? If not, those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Go paint the roads.
Go paint the town.
Yeah, go paint the town, huh?
Okay, this next
Thank you,
item.
Jason.
Next item is 7A13. This is an informational item. This also was mentioned. UDOT was awarded a $15 million Tiger Grant Award. This is for the I-15 mile point 135 to 142.5 climbing lanes project, also known as the Baker Canyon to Dog Valley climbing lanes. It's currently funded at $37 million. So due to the Tiger Grant, an equivalent amount of TIF money will be able to be freed up, and which will be programmed later on statewide priorities. This project is currently cash flowed 2021 through 2023 at 2, 20, and 15 million respectively. Got just the Tiger Award and the location map for this. Any questions?
The only question that I had on this was, if we get the Tiger Grant sometime in the next several months, probably not 3 months, but you know, somewhere in the next few months, and yet this project was designed to be out in 2021, would that accelerate the project at all?
We would. We will match up our TIF money with this grant so that we can award it and
move it a little faster than, okay.
Yeah, Region 4 is to start the design work here very shortly, and we'll be ready to go next spring.
I would like that.
So a year from now, we might be able to see some movement on this particular project rather than say 2 or 3 years as a result of the Tiger Grant. How do we get into the Tiger Grant funds for more of that stuff?
Well, they do have another round that we have to figure out what projects we want to submit on right now, and it's a much bigger program than this.
Yes, yeah, we heard from Ivan, it's instead of 500 billion, it's, or 500 million, it's 1.5 billion. Okay, good, thank you very much.
Okay. Next item is also some informational items. This is 7A14. These are project combinations. So Region 1 combined the funding and the scope from the US 89 mile point 428.77 signal and turn lanes project, which was funded at $750,000 into the US 89 SR 126 to 300 South project, which was funded at $6.75 million. Both the scope and funding for both these will remain the same and be done. Next one is the Region 1 combination of the I-15 dual off-ramps, that should say, instead of ramps. Off-ramps southbound at 5600 South Roy project. It's funded at $3 million. With the I-15 SR 232 to I-84 project funded at $158 million. The 156 South Interchange project is within the limits of the Express Lane project, and the Express Lane project will have construction activities at the same time as the dual off-ramp project, and is scheduled to be constructed. So this would be efficiencies as well in combining both of these. And then Region 3 combined the SR 87 1600 West crossing Altona Road to US 40 project, funded at $1.6 million into the SR 87 mile point 16 to Altamont project, funded at $2.8 million. Again, both of these funded for economy of scale and have less impact to the public. Do have project locations of each of these, so that's out in Region 3, combining this one with this one. This is the Region 1 combining this project here with this one here, and then the one there by Riverdale. I am not seeing the location right here. I'll get the mouse to move. Combined with this project here. Any questions on any of those?
Bill, thank you very much.
Yep. One more item.
Okay.
Last item is 7B. This is the State Infrastructure Bank. This is a loan request by St. George City. They're requesting an amount of $4.735 million for construction of a new diamond interchange over the Southern Parkway at exit 5. The loan was requested for a 5-year term. Using the current 5-year AAA bond rate as of April 2nd was at 2.04%, and with the term additive for the 5 years at 0.75% as our guidelines, it resulted in an interest rate of 2.79%. I'll show you, we got an amortization chart of this someplace right here. Shows the breakdown of what the payment amount would be for the payback. Back up. Okay, this exit was planned as a local interchange during the development and construction of the Southern Parkway. St. George City is working directly with the developer, Desert Canyons, to construct this new interchange. The loan would be used to construct all the associated features with the interchange, and the ramps will be constructed solely by the developer. It's very similar to one that occurred earlier on the Southern Parkway with Desert Canyons as well. So I'd like to seek approval for the SIB loan request for St. George City as detailed, and I should show you before you make a motion on that, just the balance that is available in our uncommitted balance is just over $30 million is what we have there now.
Mr. Chairman, Mayor John Pike called early to excuse himself because they had some other issues that they had to deal with. He had a new city manager that he couldn't make it, but apologize and ask that any question can be made through his text that if we can answer.
Do we have any questions we want to pose to St. George?
Remind me again how long the loan is?
5 years.
5 years.
5 years, okay.
Looks pretty straightforward to me.
I would like to make a motion to approve the loan, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the request from St. George for the State Infrastructure Bank,
Oh, 5 year.
4.5, 4.7 million?
4.735.
Okay, be approved. Is there any further questions or comments?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, that's also been approved.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, thank you for getting us through those business items. I think we have one more item. We have a property exchange on Redwood Road to be explained. Lyle, help us out here.
Well, this one's a little complicated. It's going to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
This is smart, Commissioner.
All
I
right.
have my gavel.
So I want to bring your attention back to the Redwood Road project that you allocated additional money for in item 7-5. Part of that was because of the right-of-way costs associated with expanding, in some cases, as you mentioned, 2 lanes to 7 lanes. And one of the ways that we are sometimes able to save money is by exchanging property that we've already purchased on the project for additional property that we still need on the project, and that's what we're here to do today. So there is a property owner, we'll just call him Mr. Newman. He owns property in various entities. I'm just going to go to the map. All right, so his properties are the ones in blue, and they are all zoned commercial industrial, which has a higher price per square foot. We need about 38,000 square feet, so about 3/4 of an acre from him. That property is valued at $569,000. And during negotiations, he identified that we had some property that was adjacent to his up here, the green. It's about 99,000 square feet, so just over 2 acres, but it's zoned residential, which has a significantly lower price per square foot. That, according to our appraisal, was valued at $490,450. During mediation, it was proposed, and we agreed, pending or subject to your approval, that we exchange
our property for their property, and then we we make up the difference of $79,000, $79,450 at closing. We reviewed this, it makes sense. We would have to sell these properties individually in the after the project anyways. This, as you can see, the project is already in need of additional funding, and this is just one other way that we help save the project money and also deal with the issue of having to sell off those remnants in the after condition anyways. So I come to you today asking for approval to consummate this exchange and complete the acquisition of this
Where
property.
is this property actually located?
It's on...
What's south on Woodward Road, do you know?
It is 13325 south, so it's between 133,300 and 13291.
Okay.
So that's the 132 to 13300 block.
All right. I think there's a light there at 133rd, isn't it? Redwood? Somewhere right along in there. Anyway,
Yeah,
I just wanted to know how far south
134th.
this was. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
Exchange.
Been moved and seconded that this exchange be approved. Is there any further question or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your help.
Very good. We have concluded our business portion of the commission meeting. We have some informational items. Next month's meeting will be held on the 10th and 11th of May in Kaysville, up in Region 1.
Very good.
And then in June, we'll be down in Region 3 on the 21st and 22nd in Spanish Fork. Is there any other business or items that need to be brought before the commission? From UDOT, Carlos, Shane, Harry?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to ask how Terry's going to be able to handle both jobs so well for so long going forward. We taxpayers are grateful for her
Well, she
double
moved
duty.
the cot into her office down in Region 3, so she could just stay there and work all night.
She secretly cloned herself so
I'll entertain a motion to close.
I so moved.
Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Heather, thank you.
I knew you couldn't.